everyone. I found this on eBay. So I thought that I would share this with you. Look, £5. So obviously it did cost some postage, but let's have a little look at what we get in this Sumi, the Art of Japanese Brush Painting. I'm not expecting much because obviously it didn't cost much, but you never know, do you? So what have we got here? In this section, we have got The Art of Japanese Brush Painting, Sumi-e, by Shingo Sayoko. Sayoko. Probably not saying that right, am I? So this book opens with a brief history of Sumi-e and then introduces the Sumi equipment contained in the pack. And then it goes through the four gentlemen, which are the four sets of basic strokes necessary for painting the key subjects of classic Sumi-e. So, as usual, we've got the bamboo, the plum, the orchid, and the chrysanthemum. Once these strokes have been mastered, you have the basic ingredients for creating your own Sumi-e. And then in increasing your repertoire, a handful of additional strokes are added to the basics. The final chapter offers some of the author's own Sumi-e works. So with complete instructions and inspirational examples, it's an ideal gift for all aspiring artists and enthusiasts of Japanese culture. So there we have our little introduction. So let's just have a little look at how this is laid out then. So we've got the story of Sumi-e, which is quite nice to have. Then we've got the four treasures being the ink stick, the ink stone, the brush, and the paper. So it gives you information on the ink stone, the brush, and the paper. There's the ink there. And ink, the word for ink is sumi. So this pack contains the four treasures, all the materials you need to start learning to paint with a brush. Okay. Getting ready for practice. So it shows you a layout, grinding the ink, how to hold the brush. This is nice, actually. Some practice strokes, light and dark tones. And then it's got these arrows showing you how to do circles and dots. And then it goes on to the four gentlemen. And then there's some symbols here for when to use the small-sized brush, the medium-sized brush, the large brush. And this is the ways of holding the brush. So chokuhitsu and sokuhitsu, upright and on the side. So there we are. Then it goes on to do the bamboo, and we've got all these instructions on how to do the leaves. Then we've got the stems, and we've got the branches, and then combining all those elements. Here we've got the plum. Actually, that looks very much like the plum that I've just done on my Substack for everyone to follow. I'm actually struggling to turn my pages today because I don't know what I've done, but this is hurting all round here. And it's really hard for me to use this left hand at the minute. Good job I paint with my right, huh? So we've got the plum, the blossom, the plum tree, the plum branches, and then combining all the elements together again. We've got the orchid. So it's really broken down nicely. Even, you know, some pictures with the what the brush is doing. Yeah, for this amount of money, I would have to say this is rather nice. So increasing your repertoire. Oh, look, we've got a dandelion. Perhaps I'll have a go at a dandelion. Ooh. Morning Glory. Rice plant. Chestnut. Pine tree. The daikon radish. The shiitake mushroom. So there are some extras in here. Yeah. Deer. Carp. Lobster. Do you know what? For the price, I think that that is not too bad a little book, and maybe quite small enough to take away. So there's our book. Then we've got some paper. That feels different to my rice paper. What paper are they calling this then? Let's just check. Palmy, the first true paper is reputed to have been invented in China. It doesn't actually say what this paper is. Oh well, that's a trifle disappointing, but I might not have read enough. Right, let's see what's in this other box then. Okay, so it looks like, let's see if I can get my right hand to work. So we have basically got 3 brushes. We've got a tiny little inkstone, and then just, there we go, let's get those out. We've got a red and a black ink stick. So, okay. All right. Let me make some space. And perhaps I'll just copy this picture on the front here. So we'll have that. Those. Get a piece of our paper ready. Okay, let's get my blocks out. So they don't actually give you any blocks. The paper is very, very thin, as is always the case, because that's kind of how it works. Okay, let's get some water in there. I mean, this is dinky. Or should we use red for a change? I'm not expecting much from any of this. But you never know. I mean, it's portable. Okay, let's see how we go with that. Let's get some water in, and let's take the tops off of these. Get the glue off the first one. Let's see what happens, shall we? Well, it's not very dark. Let's try adding some black to it. You're probably not supposed to do this, but I kind of want it to darken up a bit. Let's go for the medium one. We seem to go into quite a nice point. So we can just get some leaves going on. At least we can see better now. Maybe we can even do a stroke for the bottom. Let's just get this smaller one going then. Well, definitely, I mean, it definitely works. I just think you probably need to, you know, mix the ink for a bit longer than I did. Okay. But, of course, maybe you don't need to take those. You could, instead, in that pack, you could probably fit one of these because it's a similar size. So you could pack one of those. Let's try using that. I'm just not convinced that those ink sticks are that good a quality. So let's try again. Let's go with our bigger size brush. And then we'll go down to our medium size brush. So that we've got some stalks going on. And then let's try our so yeah, I haven't really done that as finely. I don't think this is going to go fine enough. Let's try again. So we really only need the small brush. And of course, if you've got rice paper, you can cut your rice paper up to the right size to do this. Okay, let's try move that right out of the way and see if we can get okay. So now holding my brush correctly and using the whole of my arm, I get a much better effect. I suppose you could use that to mix a lighter consistency. And there we have our little flower. So actually that is looking a lot better, I think. So the smaller brush worked so much better for that. Let's see about doing try doing a tree trunk. Go back to our bigger brush. And I'm going to take some of the paint off because I want it to be a bit drier to yeah, go down a size. Bit darker maybe. And get some leaves going on. Maybe one that's falling off. And then with our very smallest brush, maybe, and I want that to be quite dark, and I've chosen a different colour actually. Well, I'm not sure that this paper is the best, to be honest. I wonder. Now just play. Let's get some of our rice paper. And let's put you there. Okay. Let's try again. Let's go with our blue again. Put my hands in the right place. Yay. And then let's use our more watered down version. And somehow this paper is just heaps better. It's really still a bit too dark for that flower, but let's try doing a different shape for a flower. And if we, I'm just going to let that dry. That's when I can get my mouse to work. Gosh, it's really hard when you're only working with one hand properly. There we go. Right, now that that is dry, I'm just going to add some details to that one. And a few little details to that one, and then I'm just going to add some little dots here and there. Yeah, so this paper is obviously a lot better than, I mean, this is almost like tracing paper, whereas you can feel that this is like, it's almost like material. So I would have to say that I would just be cutting myself up some squares that are going to fit in that box. And would I use these? Probably not. I think I would probably take a couple of my Sumi E Japanesque paints with me. So these are the Japanesque colour Shadow Black E Sumi paints. I would take those with me. And as far as the brushes go, this isn't the smallest of brushes, but it's not too bad. And yeah, I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad for travel, because obviously, you know, your usual brushes are this long, and these are almost half of that. So as a travel set, I don't think it's too bad. So let's move you out of the way. We can pretend that we've cut our rice paper up, and that would then go in the bottom. We can pop our book in there. And then, where is that box? Here it is. Here's the other box. So we could put, I've just taken that out, but we'll put it back rather. We could put, one of them going to come out. There we go. We could put one of those in there. We could still put our brushes back in there. Yeah, I think that would probably work. Or maybe you just, let's try again. Maybe, although I'm not sure that my hand's going to let me do this, but Yes, there we go. Let's use my elbow instead. There we are. This is what I'm having to do, folks. Right, so now I can fit that in as like a little mixing well. I could fit a couple of these in, and I could maybe, even if I've got a very thin, which I probably have somewhere, well, I've got a thinner one than this, but you know, just a tiny little spray bottle would fit in there. The kind, yeah, let me just pause again and see if I can find one. Right, I found one. You know, one of these tiny little Tombow misters. And so that would all fit in there, that you could then fit in there. Moving everything out of the way again. And then that one goes on there, and that one goes on there. And you have your eSumi kit to take out with you, which is rather nice. So yeah, there we go then. Yeah, just I suppose the only thing that I'm really not that impressed with are these ink sticks. Other than that, I mean, you can use that just as a little mixing well. So other than these, everything else is actually pretty good. So there we are. A cute little kit that you probably have to go hunting for. As I said, I found it on eBay. Whether there's any more or not, I don't know. But let me leave you with the front cover. Sumi E, The Art of Japanese Brush Painting. Yeah, see if you can find it. Good hunting, everybody. All right, bye for now.